Money does not obey your struggle. It does not respond to panic, to fear, or to the sincerity of your need. Money is not a child. It is not a friend. It is not a reward. Money is a spiritual servant. It is moved by law, governed by law, activated by law. And if your money is stuck, it is not because of failure, injustice, or delay. It is because something in you has stepped out of divine order. The chaos in your finances is not circumstantial, it is legal. Something in your speech has violated the pattern. And until you repent with your words, nothing will move. You're not broke. You're just out of rhythm. You're just out of position. You're using your mouth to describe, not to decree. You're rehearsing fear when you should be issuing commands. You're speaking about money like it's a judge, when in truth it's your employee. And that one misunderstanding has created every delay you now mislabel as reality. Most people try to manifest wealth by reading, thinking, praying, or hoping. But the law does not recognize any of those as commands. The law listens for frequency, for vibration, for legal sound, and it only responds when the decree is spoken with recognition of divine authority. You cannot whisper power. You cannot casually hope things into form. You must decree it. You must speak as if the substance already belongs to you, because in truth it does. Let me say it again. Money is not an achievement. It is a response. It is the echo of a law that was either spoken or violated. And what you call bad luck, delay, or I don't know what's wrong is nothing more than spiritual feedback. The law is not confused. The field is not silent. The mirror is not broken. It is all responding perfectly to the last spoken word you forgot you authorized. Do not confuse silence for absence. The law is always moving, but only according to the last rhythm you gave it permission to obey. And when you say, I never have enough, or I can't afford that, or it's too late for me, the law doesn't argue. It obeys. It aligns the entire field to match the decree, even if you said it casually, thoughtlessly, or out of habit. This is why transformation cannot begin with thought. It must begin with sound. You must retrain your voice. You must submit your tongue to spiritual jurisdiction, because whatever your mouth repeats, your life must reflect. The universe is not biased, it is obedient, and it has no power to override your word unless you authorize a higher one. There are 7 divine laws that govern wealth. Not ideas, not philosophies, laws. And the reason most people never see true financial dominion is because they're trying to use inspiration in a courtroom that only recognizes authority. You do not win in the spirit by trying harder. You win by speaking correctly. The field does not reward sincerity, it rewards alignment. These 7 laws are not trends, they are not secrets. They are the invisible pillars of spiritual economy. When you align with them, money moves towards you, not slowly, not sporadically, but rhythmically and lawfully. When you violate them, money scatters. It dries up. It withdraws, not to punish, but to protect the order. The law will never reward disorder. It will never bless fear. It will never override your vibration just because you want it to. That is not cruelty. That is spiritual hygiene. The universe cannot deliver wealth to an identity it does not recognize. And if you are still speaking as a beggar, a struggler, or a doubtful child, you have already given the law a false name. And money, being a legal servant, cannot deliver to the wrong claimant. So now the question is not, what do I need to do? The question is, what have I been saying? Because if your words are unauthorized, your wealth is locked. And no vision board, no side hustle, no amount of working late can undo the damage of a careless decree. This is not a punishment. This is grace. You are being shown where the misalignment began. You do not need more education. You need more rhythm. You do not need more motivation. You need more obedience. You do not need a financial breakthrough. You need a verbal correction. Because if you speak lack, the law must obey lack. If you speak delay, the law must extend delay. If you speak from fear, the law must mirror fear. Not because it wants to, but because it was written to. This is the turning point. You must stop negotiating with appearances. You must stop excusing smallness as humility. You must stop spiritualizing your dysfunction. The law does not care how long it's been, it only cares what's being said. Now, in this moment, with your breath. If you are ready to restore divine order, you must start with the mouth. You must take back authority, not by emotion, but by declaration. You must rise above memory and speak from inheritance. You must override the past with the word. And that is exactly what we begin today. This is not a motivational video. This is a courtroom. Every part of this message is legal. Every sentence is a summons. Every decree is a reversal of the old system. You are not watching this by accident. You are called into alignment. And if you choose to ignore this, you are not delaying the video, you are delaying your own provision. The 7 divine laws that control money are about to be revealed, one by one, not as theory, but as command. Each one is a sentence you must speak, a rhythm you must obey, a tone you must inhabit. These are not suggestions. These are protocols. You are not being asked to understand. You are being commanded to realign. Now say this aloud, not as a wish, not as a prayer, but as a ruling. I now submit my speech to divine law. What I speak is law. What I command is done. What I release moves now. Say it again, this time as if the entire spirit realm just turned to listen. I now submit my speech to divine law. What I speak is law. What I command is done. What I release moves now. If this is your moment, comment it below to seal the field. Write it 7 times to realign your voice with divine order. And when you are done, do not ask for a sign. Do not look for evidence. Walk as one whose law has already moved the field. Because the law does not wait to believe you. It waits to hear you. Nothing grows in the spirit until a word is spoken. There is no movement, no transaction, no release of substance until the tongue declares what shall be. The spirit does not respond to thought. It does not react to fear. It does not negotiate with logic. It waits for a spoken seed. And when the seed is planted in rhythm, with authority, and without contradiction, the field obeys. This is the first law that governs wealth, the law of the spoken seed. Every field, physical or spiritual, is neutral. It is not generous. It is not greedy. It is not delayed. It is obedient. And whatever seed is spoken into it, intentionally or by habit, will begin to root. The problem is not that the field rejects you. The problem is that the field is too faithful. It keeps growing what you never meant to authorize. Every time you say, I'm not sure, you plant confusion. Every time you say, that's too expensive, you plant spiritual distance. Every time you say, I always mess this up, you bury the next harvest under a curse. Not because you meant to, but because the law does not sort intention. It obeys vibration. And most people have trained their field to obey lack. The law of the spoken seed is final. It does not wait for repetition. It does not ask for emotion. It reacts the moment a seed is cast. And that is why most people's lives never shift, because their language has become loose. Their speech is casual. They throw words into the air like dust and wonder why storms form. But nothing is casual in the spirit. Every word is a root. You must take responsibility for what your field is growing. You must stop blaming timing, people, or systems. The first harvest did not come from the market, it came from the mouth. The Garden of Eden was not governed by effort, it was governed by speech. Adam named, Eve spoke, and what was spoken became structure. When you say, "Money never stays with me," you are not describing reality. You are assigning reality. You are commanding the law to organize your finances in such a way that money appears but does not remain. You have just signed a decree of spiritual eviction, and the field will obey. When you say, "I don't know what I'm doing," the law does not comfort you. It configures your atmosphere to match the decree. You begin to make unclear decisions, miss instructions, and spiral into confusion. Not because you're weak, but because the seed you planted demanded confusion as the harvest. You do not need to understand money to receive it. You need to honor the law that governs it. And the first law says, speak, cast the seed, release the word. No more describing the problem, no more praying the problem, no more repeating what fear trained you to say. The field is not rejecting you. It's waiting for a new crop. And a new crop can only begin with a new decree. You were never meant to speak from pain. You were meant to speak from inheritance. You were not created to describe conditions. You were appointed to reassign them. When Jesus said, "Speak to the mountain," he was not giving advice. He was giving jurisdiction. He was revealing that the mountain does not move for the emotional. It moves for the authorized. You are authorized, but your tongue has forgotten. You cannot speak as a victim and expect the field to deliver like a victor. You cannot issue a decree one day and cancel it the next. You cannot ask for overflow while repeating scarcity in every conversation. The field does not choose favorites. It obeys the last legal word. And most of you have been repeating words that no longer serve your identity. Break the cycle. Start with this. Do not speak what you do not want to see. Do not describe anything that contradicts divine law. If it does not agree with heaven, it does not belong on your tongue. If it cannot be harvested in joy, it should never be seeded in sound. Stop using your voice to echo the problem. Begin using it to release the prototype. Say what you mean what you speak, and let your field obey you. Say this aloud. I now plant my field with divine speech. My word is my seed, my tone is my root, my harvest obeys me. Again, I now plant my field with divine speech. My word is my seed, my tone is my root, my harvest obeys me. If you're ready to break the old cycle of unconscious planting, write this in the comments now. 7 times. Not for algorithm, but for alignment. This is not affirmation, this is agriculture. You are not repeating to manifest, you are repeating to rewire the law. You are speaking rhythm into soil. You are commanding spiritual memory to forget what fear told it to build. You are calling back authority. You are placing new seed in the place where sabotage once lived. And now, hear me clearly. Once the new seed is planted, do not dig it up with contradiction. Do not reverse the decree with sarcasm. Do not cancel the command with panic. Once planted, protect it. Honor it. Repeat it daily, not because God forgot, but because the field must be trained to obey you again. Do not ask how long it will take. Do not stare at the soil. Do not test the seed. Speak, seal, walk on. Because the moment you spoke it, the law recorded it, and the harvest has already begun. Words without vibration are empty. Sound without power is ignored. You may say the right phrase. You may quote every declaration. But if your voice lacks authority, true spiritual authority, the law will not move. It will not be offended, it will not punish, it will simply wait. Because the law is not activated by correctness, it is activated by frequency. This is the second divine law that governs wealth, the law of vibrational authority. Your money does not respond to repetition, it responds to rank. And your rank is not decided by title, income, or intention. Your rank is recognized by tone. The unseen realm knows exactly who you are, not by your thoughts, not by your personality, not by your vision board, but by the vibration you carry when you speak. Authority has nothing to do with volume. It has everything to do with who's speaking. A whisper from a queen will move armies. A scream from a beggar moves nothing. The difference is not the words. The difference is the throne. You cannot fake vibration. You cannot impersonate faith. The law is not tricked by posture. It is not deceived by effort. It detects frequency. And if you speak a divine decree from a place of doubt, desperation, or mimicry, the law will remain still, not to reject you, but to protect divine order. Because if the law responded to everyone equally, without discernment of vibration, the universe would collapse into confusion. So the question is not, what am I saying? The question is, who is saying it? Because if your voice carries no spiritual weight, your decree becomes theatrical, decorative, spiritually ineffective. Authority is not energy. It is identity expressed as sound. You cannot project authority from a fractured sense of self. You must speak from the divine center, from the I am presence, not from the echo of who you were. And most people, when they speak about money, speak from survival, not sovereignty. They speak as victims of the system, not as sons and daughters of divine inheritance. So their tone reveals their disconnection. And the field waits. You must understand, when you decree wealth, the spirit realm does not analyze your grammar. It analyzes your frequency. If you say, I am rich, but carry the vibration of fear, the law does not hear the phrase. It hears the fear, and it obeys that. If you say, my supply is abundant, but your nervous system trembles with doubt, the field aligns with what is felt, not what is said. Because vibration trumps vocabulary. This is why Florence Scovel Shinn said, your word is your wand, not your voice, not your effort, not your emotions, your word. But a word is not just a string of syllables, it is a container for vibration, and that container must be pure, unmixed, consistent, spiritually weighted. Otherwise, it is rejected by the system that governs divine law. You cannot curse money Monday through Friday and expect prosperity on Sunday. You cannot joke about being broke and then try to decree abundance. The law does not distinguish humor from fear. It hears vibration. And every sarcastic phrase, every doubtful comment, every casual echo of lack becomes a seed planted in the field, weighted with your authority. Most of you are vibrating at the level of your upbringing, your family, your teachers, your early failures. You are not speaking as a sovereign voice. You are speaking as a reflection of inherited patterns, and that is why your field is confused. You sound like your past, not your calling. And until your vibration rises to match your divine identity, nothing in your world will recognize your command. Raise your tone, clean your sound, speak from the center, and do not borrow someone else's words unless your vibration matches theirs. The field does not honor plagiarism. It honors alignment. Vibrational authority is not something you earn. It is something you remember. You were born with it, but the world trained it out of you. It taught you to whisper when you should have ruled. It trained you to beg when you were sent to decree. And now you must unlearn every tone that kept you small. Authority sounds like stillness. It sounds like certainty. It is not frantic. It is not reactive. It does not shout to prove. It speaks once, and the field obeys. This is why Florence taught that the right word, spoken with unwavering faith, overrides every condition. Not because the phrase is magic, but because the one who spoke it carried law in their voice. Now it's your turn. Say this aloud. I speak from authority. My voice is ranked, my word is law, my field hears me and obeys. Again, slower, with presence, with knowing. I speak from authority, my voice is ranked, my word is law, my field hears me and obeys. Comment this now to match vibration with declaration. 7 times. Not to be seen, but to be sealed. If your voice has been carrying someone else's fear, return it. If your tone has been echoing trauma, release it. If your command has been wrapped in apology, burn it. Authority cannot coexist with confusion. Speak from clarity or do not speak at all. And when you walk away from this decree, do not return to old volume. Do not go back to linguistic insecurity. The next time you speak about your finances, speak from throne. Speak from inheritance. Speak from the frequency of already done. Because the field is not confused, it is just waiting to recognize who's speaking. Every time you allow fear to finish its sentence, you surrender your harvest. Every time you entertain a doubt, even briefly, you have already agreed with delay. And every time you try to resist a thought, rather than replace it, you reinforce its legal right to stay. The law of substitution does not suggest you feel better. It commands you to choose better. It is not self-help. It is divine law. This is the third divine law that governs wealth, the law of substitution. And most people are violating it every day, unknowingly, rhythmically, obediently. Because no one ever told them, you don't overcome darkness by wrestling with it. You overcome it by replacing it with light. You don't silence fear by begging it to go. You silence it by introducing a higher frequency. You do not win in the mind by arguing. You win by overriding. The mind was never designed to fight its thoughts. It was designed to obey them. And whatever is repeated, whether truth or error, becomes reality. The battlefield you're experiencing is not because you're weak. It's because you're misusing your gate. You're giving fear too much airtime. You're giving lack the final word. You're letting the lie echo longer than the law. Let me be clear. Substitution is not spiritual bypassing. It is spiritual war. It is the legal override of a vibration that was never authorized. It is the command of heaven replacing the whisper of history. You are not being asked to pretend. You are being required to speak. Florence said, there is no neutral in the subconscious mind. If you do not speak truth, error will speak for you. And error always speaks first. The subconscious always replays the loudest, oldest voice. So unless you install a new one, the loop of fear will continue. Not because you're cursed, but because you've refused to interrupt the program. Substitution means this. You do not allow a single fear-based thought to remain in your mind without being replaced. Not one. Not even the logical ones. Not even the realistic ones. The moment a voice says you don't have enough, you speak, I walk in divine surplus. Supply precedes demand. The moment a whisper says this won't work, you speak, every plan of divine order succeeds by law. The moment dread shows up in your chest, you say, I carry no dread, I carry decree. I am ruled by command, not emotion. Do not wait for the thought to fester. Do not let it finish its paragraph. The longer you wait, the deeper it roots. And once rooted, it starts producing after its kind. Thoughts grow branches, they invite others. One fear becomes 5, One doubt becomes a vibration. And then, without knowing it, your field begins to shape around an error you never spoke but silently agreed to. Agreement in silence is still agreement. The law does not only hear words, it hears alignment. And the moment you fail to speak truth, error receives your permission to stay. This is why most people's lives remain spiritually stagnant. Not because they don't speak truth, but because they don't replace lies. They speak truth in the morning, and by afternoon they've replayed the old programs 100 times. That's too expensive. This always happens to me. I never get it right. These phrases aren't just habits, they are decrees. Spoken or thought, they carry weight. And unless each one is replaced, they form a rhythm that the law must obey. You cannot carry breakthrough and contradiction in the same voice. You cannot plant the right seed in the morning and allow weeds all day. You cannot speak abundance once and repeat scarcity 600 times in your head. Substitution is not optional. It is not a practice. It is law. You either install truth or tolerate sabotage, and many of you are tolerating sabotage because you've been told to be kind to yourself, even when your own thoughts are dragging you into spiritual poverty. You've been trained to let the thought pass as if the field doesn't remember what just passed through. But the field records everything. Vibration is not forgetful. It is faithful. And unless you actively replace what entered, it will remain legally, quietly, and destructively. Substitution requires vigilance, but it does not require stress. The moment you hear a wrong thought, simply speak. Not from panic, but from rank. Cut the root. Plant the opposite. Do it instantly. Do it rhythmically. Do it without apology. You are not here to be emotionally accurate. You are here to be legally aligned. This is not denial. This is dominion. When the world says brace yourself, you say, I walk under the law of divine protection. No loss can enter. When the field says there's not enough, you say, I draw from invisible wealth. My source is spiritual, not seasonal. When the doubt says it's too late for you, you say, my timing is perfect. My good is never delayed. It knows my name and finds me now. Do not wait for your feelings to match your speech. Speak until your feelings obey. The soul is trained by repetition, and you do not train it by being silent during storms. Every moment you remain silent in the presence of a lie, you confirm the lie's authority. And every moment you speak truth, even if you don't yet feel it, you restore the jurisdiction of heaven over your atmosphere. Now speak. Say this aloud. I override every unauthorized voice. I speak divine substitution. My word replaces all error. Only truth remains. Again, not faster, deeper. I override every unauthorized voice. I speak divine substitution. My word replaces all error. Only truth remains. Comment it below 7 times. Seal it in your mind, in your body, in your gate. Not for algorithm, for authority. And when fear comes again, and it will, you do not analyze it. You do not wrestle it. You do not question your growth. You speak. You interrupt. You install law. Because the law does not wait for your analysis, it waits for your substitution. You cannot receive what you do not obey. The law does not respond to hunger, to need, to effort, or to urgency. It responds to order, and order is maintained through obedience, not partial, not occasional, not when convenient. Obedience is not a mood. It is a rhythm, a posture, a spiritual discipline that governs the direction of your harvest. This is the 4th divine law that controls money, the law of obedience. And this law cannot be negotiated, it cannot be bypassed, it cannot be diluted with good intentions or temporary excitement. The law of obedience is not about rules, it is about rhythm. What you obey governs what you create. You may have the right words, you may have the right tone, but if your rhythm betrays your word, the field knows, the law knows, the mirror knows, and the demonstration will not come. Most people speak a powerful decree once and then spend 6 days obeying doubt. They say, "I am wealthy," but live like beggars in their posture. They speak, "My supply is infinite," but check their accounts obsessively, as if the numbers hold the authority. They declare, "I trust divine order," but panic every time a delay appears. And the law does not listen to what you say once. It obeys what you follow consistently. Obedience is not about fear. It is about structure. It is the bridge between word and world. The decree goes forth, but the rhythm brings it into form. You do not prove obedience by emotion. You prove it by silence, by stillness, by how little you contradict what you spoke. Let me make it plain. The moment you declare abundance, your job is to obey that declaration, not to revisit it, not to doubt it, not to rehearse your fears in the dark. You do not repeat the decree because you don't trust it. You repeat it to build rhythm. You obey the word by embodying the word. Every time you check for evidence, you betray the decree. Every time you compare your life to someone else's, you interrupt the rhythm. Every time you rehearse how long it's taking, you give the field mixed instructions. And the law does not know what to deliver to a double-minded gate. Obedience is singular. It is focused. It is lawful. It does not drift with emotion or fear. It does not shift because a new voice showed up online or a new expert offered their version of truth. The obedient gate says, "I have spoken, I have sealed, and I shall not revise my law." This is why Florence said, "Your word is your wand, but a wand only works when it is not waved in panic." If you issue a decree and immediately start meddling with it through fear, through doubt, through effort, you override your own magic. The law is mechanical. It is divine, but it is also mathematical. It does not guess. It calculates vibration. It detects coherence, and it records every contradiction, not to punish, but to measure whether the command has been made stable enough for delivery. Your money is waiting on your consistency, not your inspiration, not your perfect vocabulary, but your steadiness and posture, your refusal to beg after you've spoken, your ability to walk like it's done, even when appearances haven't shifted. Obedience is not passive, it is active alignment. Every action you take, every word you allow, every gesture you repeat is either obedience to the decree or disobedience masked as confusion. There is no neutral. You are always following something. Who are you obeying right now? The law or the last voice of fear? Who do your habits belong to? Your decree or your history? Who trained your posture, divine order, or emotional reflex? Because the law is not sentimental. It will not lower itself to match your excuses. It will simply wait until you return to rhythm. When you obey the law, it moves immediately. Not always visibly, but structurally. Things begin to rearrange. Conversations shift, delays dissolve. Provisions locate you in silence. You do not always see the obedience in the moment, but you always harvest the obedience in its season. And most people miss their season, not because they didn't speak, but because they didn't stay aligned long enough for delivery. Obedience is how you hold the line. It is how you protect the seed. It is how you shield your field from contradiction. Say it once, believe it fully, obey it constantly. Say this aloud: I obey what I decree. I do not contradict my command. I do not chase. I do not doubt. I move in rhythm with divine law. Again, slower, from the belly, from the center. I obey what I decree. I do not contradict my command. I do not chase. I do not doubt. I move in rhythm with divine law. Now write it 7 times. Comment it to seal it, not for motivation, for mastery. And hear me. The moment you obey, the moment you refuse to revisit the fear, the field recognizes you. The field says, this one knows. This one is stable. This one can receive. Obedience is not submission to a deity. It is submission to your own decree. And when that submission becomes rhythm, the demonstration cannot be stopped. The law does not obey your dreams. It obeys your name. And if your name does not match your decree, your field will reject the command. This is the 5th divine law that governs wealth, the law of identity. Until you speak from the self that owns the harvest, your words are dismissed by the system as misfiled requests. You are not broke because you lack ideas. You are not stuck because you lack work ethic. You are still in delay because your identity does not match your instruction. The law is not sentimental. It delivers to identity, not intention. And most people are trying to collect blessings addressed to someone they've never become. Let me make this plain. The law does not recognize who you hope to be. It recognizes who you speak from. And if you are still speaking as someone trying, someone working on it, someone healing, someone praying, then you have not yet taken your seat. And until you speak as one who already holds the rank, the decree will have no legal pathway to deliver. You must speak from the end, from completion, from arrival. You must speak from wealth, not to it. You must speak from freedom, not for it. Because in divine law, the future is not pulled toward you. It is accessed through identity. And every time you say, I'm almost there, you deny the jurisdiction of the I am. The subconscious mind is not poetic. It does not translate metaphor. It does not differentiate sarcasm from surrender. It obeys the repeated vibration you identify with. If you say, I'm always broke, it begins configuring your nervous system to tolerate lack. If you say, I never get it right, it programs your rhythm to expect loss. The subconscious is your field assistant. It does not argue, it installs. You must tell it who you are, clearly, rhythmically, lawfully, and you must tell it without contradiction. Most of you are double-minded. You speak law 1 hour and legacy trauma the next. You say, I am rich, but live like a debtor. You say, I have divine timing, but move like you're late. You say, I trust, but your posture leaks panic. The law does not obey surface words. It obeys embodied name. This is why Florence wrote, the subconscious has no sense of humor, and people often joke themselves into unhappy experiences. Because every time you joke about being broke, or laugh at failure, or call yourself a mess, the law does not laugh with you. It records your identity and delivers accordingly. Do not call yourself tired. Do not call yourself unlucky. Do not say, I'm just the kind of person who always struggles. That is not humility. That is self-curse. You are signing a contract with an identity that the law must then obey, and it will, without delay. This is not performance. This is jurisdiction. The law scans for name before it releases harvest. And if you have not identified yourself correctly, the field will hold the blessing in escrow until the rightful voice speaks. This is why you must practice the identity before the evidence arrives. You must speak with the posture of wealth. You must walk with the rhythm of royalty. You must live like one who has already been introduced to the kingdom. Because the law is not moved by need. It is moved by spiritual fingerprint. Who are you? Not what's your story. Not what happened to you. Not what are your plans. Who are you in the language of the law? If your answer is conditional, you are not yet authorized. If your answer changes based on your bank balance, your mood, or your environment, the law is still waiting. Because the field cannot obey an unstable identity. It requires repetition, rhythm, seal. Identity is not just I am, it is what follows. I am is the throne. But what you place on that throne governs your world. I am stuck, I am trying, I am unlucky, are not statements, they are spells. And most of the delay in your life is not from failure. It is from misnaming yourself in front of the law. You must clean your language. You must cancel every word you inherited from fear. You must break every name you accepted from culture. You must rewrite your vibration, starting with what you call yourself. Say it out loud. I am divinely authorized. I am wealth in form. I am law in motion. I am already recognized. Again, slowly, from the back of the voice, like the law is listening. I am divinely authorized. I am wealth in form. I am law in motion. I am already recognized. Now write it in the comments 7 times. Not to share, to seal. This is not performance. This is identity protocol. When the law scans the field, it is not checking your effort. It is checking the name on the decree. You must become unshakable in your I am. You must speak it without explaining. You must say it without proof. You must walk it out before anything shows up, because the law does not deliver what you hope for. It delivers what your name claims. And if your name is correct, the gate opens. Automatically, rhythmically, in perfect order. You say you believe the law, but what has your life demonstrated? You say the word is truth, but where is the evidence? You declare, I am rich, I am free, I am divinely provided for, but what shows up? If your world does not yet reflect your decree, it is not because the law failed. It is because the rhythm was never completed. This is the 6th divine law that governs wealth, the law of demonstration. Demonstration is not a mystery. It is not a surprise, a gift, or a reward. It is not the lucky moment when the universe decides to be kind. Demonstration is the material proof that law has been obeyed. It is the final step of rhythm. It is the manifestation that follows consistency. It is what happens when speech, belief, and vibration have aligned for long enough that the field must deliver form. There is no way to skip this law. There is no workaround. You cannot pray your way into demonstration. You cannot manifest through feelings. You cannot fast-track your evidence by being a good person, having pure intentions, or doing what others expect. The law of demonstration is mathematical. It is mechanical. It operates without emotional bias. It watches for alignment, and it obeys completed circuits of speech, vibration, and stillness. The reason most people never reach demonstration is not because they do not believe, but because they do not remain. They speak the word once. They feel the shift. They believe for a few days. But then they look around, they check the numbers, they compare to others, they listen to doubt, they ask if it's working, they start speaking from fear again. And every one of those shifts breaks the rhythm. And when the rhythm is broken, the law cannot complete its cycle. The field cannot deliver form to inconsistency. Florence said, faith knows it has already received and acts accordingly. That is the true mark of demonstration. You walk, live, speak, and move as one who already has what they declared. Not as performance, not as manifestation theater, not as fake it till you make it, but as spiritual obedience. You are not pretending, you are fulfilling law. To demonstrate, you must become consistent with the version of you who has already received. You must eat like her, speak like her, rest like her, Answer emails like her. Look at your bank account like her. You must shift into the embodiment of someone who no longer questions the decree, because it is already settled. Demonstration requires total rhythm, not spiritual highs, not bursts of belief. Rhythm. That means every thought, every phrase, every response, every posture aligned with the decree. No exceptions. No temporary breaks for anxiety. No just venting. No indulging doubt just for a moment. Rhythm means there is no difference between what you said in prayer, what you speak on a Tuesday, and what you expect at midnight when no one's watching. If you say, "My supply is unlimited," and then act surprised when money comes, you are not in rhythm. If you declare, "I have more than enough," and then feel guilty when you receive, you are not in alignment. If you speak, "I am royalty," and then tolerate lack in your tone, your relationships, or your schedule, you are violating the law that would have given you evidence. Demonstration is not just about receiving. It is about proving to the field that your decree has become your default. And the moment you shift into default identity, when you no longer need to believe it because you've become it, the field responds, not because you finally earned it, but because you finally matched it. The spiritually poor chase evidence. The spiritually rich prepare their table. The spiritually poor obsess over signs. The spiritually rich organize their life to receive. The spiritually poor try to do enough to get the blessing. The spiritually rich speak once, obey fully, and live in peace until form arrives. Demonstration is not about striving, it is about stillness. It is about non-reactivity. You do not shake when the appearance doesn't match the promise. You do not explain when people question your faith. You do not beg the law to hurry. You simply remain in rhythm, in rest, in royal order. And this is the test. Can you remain obedient when there's no sign? Can you keep the posture of wealth when the account doesn't reflect it yet? Can you answer the phone like a woman who's already funded? Can you rest like someone whose provision cannot be blocked? Demonstration requires discipline, because every contradiction in the visible world will try to lure you back into old rhythm. Every delay will try to make you explain. Every unexpected expense will tempt you to contradict the decree. But the one who demonstrates is the one who does not blink, the one who sees the contradiction but does not speak it, the one who walks past the illusion and does not stop to defend herself, the one who speaks the word once and then lives accordingly. And most of you are not there yet, not because you're incapable, but because you have been trained by chaos, trained by lack, trained by urgency, trained by trauma. You don't know how to stay still. You don't know how to live as if it's done. You are too used to striving, too used to trying, too used to deserving. But the law of demonstration requires none of that. It requires only rhythm. Say the word, obey the word, rest in the word. That is the path to demonstration. Say this aloud. I no longer chase proof, I demonstrate truth. My rhythm is sealed, my field obeys. Again, slower, not for hype, for completion. I no longer chase proof, I demonstrate truth. My rhythm is sealed, my field obeys. Now write it below. 7 times, not for algorithm, for authority, for atmosphere, for sealing the gate. And the next time, fear whispers, is it working? You do not respond, you do not defend, you do not debate. You return to rhythm. Because the field is not asking you to feel powerful. It is asking you to become consistent. There is no demonstration without rhythm. There is no rhythm without repetition. There is no repetition without seal. And there is no seal without obedience to divine timing. This is the seventh and final divine law that governs wealth, the law of rhythm and seal. If you do not understand rhythm, you will spend your life trying and calling it faith. If you do not obey rhythm, you will chase breakthrough forever and never find it. Let this be settled in your spirit now. You were designed to move in divine rhythm. You were not created to rush. You were not assigned to panic. You were not meant to sprint your way into provision. You were created to align with spiritual cadence, repetition that becomes reality. Rhythm is how the universe breathes. Rhythm is how the field organizes. Rhythm is how the decree becomes destiny. Florence said, "A person knowing the power of the word becomes very careful of his conversation." Why? Because words are not casual. Words are rhythmic forces. They shape the field through repetition, not through momentary force. The power is not in one massive decree. The power is in the unwavering frequency of right decree, spoken until the vibration becomes structural. When you speak the word once, the field hears you. When you speak it daily, the field begins to move. When you speak it rhythmically, the field begins to obey. And when you speak it without contradiction long enough, the field seals the vibration into form. That is rhythm. That is seal. That is law. Most people fail here. They think their one-time declaration is enough, but their vibration is scattered, their rhythm is broken, their obedience is unstable. One day they speak truth, the next day they speak contradiction. One week they are powerful, the next they are back in confusion. They plant one seed and then trample the soil. Then they say the law doesn't work for me. But it does. It simply obeys rhythm. And your rhythm was double-minded. Let me be crystal clear. Rhythm is not emotion. It is not repetition for repetition's sake. It is divine movement in sync with law. Rhythm says, I spoke it, I returned to it, I obeyed it, I lived it. I didn't shift when fear whispered. I didn't shrink when delay showed up. I didn't chase a better affirmation. I didn't add maybe to my command. I obeyed the pulse of heaven, and because of that rhythm, the field had no choice but to seal the decree. Your decree must be sealed before it can manifest. And sealing does not happen through hype. Sealing happens through repetition without contradiction. You are not speaking the decree 10 times because the law is hard of hearing. You are speaking it 10 times because your own atmosphere must be trained. Your nervous system must be remapped. Your identity must be recoded. Your gate must be retuned. The law of rhythm and seal is not about feeling it. It is about installing it. You are reprogramming the subconscious field to obey divine command. And the subconscious does not respond to novelty. It responds to pattern. It responds to rhythm. It responds to what is spoken so many times with so much inner consistency that the body accepts it as law. Every day you speak your truth, you build rhythm. Every day you obey that rhythm, you gain jurisdiction. Every day you refuse contradiction, you move closer to seal. And when the seal is complete, when the field has heard nothing else for long enough, the demonstration arrives. Quietly, suddenly, inevitably. But most people never reach that point. Why? Because they get bored. Because they want new words. Because they confuse rhythm with performance. They say, I already said that. And so they stop. They try to move on to the next technique, the next sentence, the next strategy. But the field was not asking for novelty. It was waiting for rhythm. You must learn to love the discipline of repetition. You must become obsessed with saying the same decree, not louder, but deeper. Not with more emotion, but with more obedience. You must become a student of your own vibration. You must ask, What am I rehearsing most often? Because that is what will seal. You are always sealing something. The only question is, are you sealing truth or fear? Are you sealing abundance or survival? Are you sealing identity or instability? Every thought, every phrase, every tone, every glance feeds the rhythm. And the law does not discriminate. It will seal whatever is spoken longest and clearest. That is why you cannot afford careless language. You cannot afford sarcastic comments. You cannot afford self-deprecating jokes. You cannot afford to just be honest when honesty contradicts law. Because rhythm does not care if you meant it. It only cares that you repeated it. Every joke about being broke is a beat in a rhythm that seals lack. Every sigh of "I'm tired" is a drumbeat toward a sealed identity of exhaustion. Every moment you casually agree with appearance, you are casting a vote for contradiction. And contradiction, when repeated, becomes reality, not because it's true, but because it was allowed to finish the rhythm. You must take back control of your rhythm. That means setting rituals. That means speaking the decree daily. That means watching your tone, your language, your gestures. That means building a life that echoes your law. You don't just say it once, you say it again and again, until the atmosphere bends, until the field conforms, until your body no longer flinches at divine truth, but moves in perfect rhythm with it. Say this aloud: my rhythm is sealed, my word is law, my field is trained, my demonstration is done. Again, not from need, from command. My rhythm is sealed, my word is law, my field is trained, my demonstration is done. Now write it in the comments 7 times, not for motivation, for mastery, for sealing the rhythm through action. And when you wake up tomorrow, you speak it again. When you feel afraid, you speak it again. When someone offers a lesser rhythm, you do not entertain it. You remain, you repeat, you demonstrate, because the one who repeats without contradiction is the one who governs their world. And the one who governs rhythm governs wealth. This is the final seal. The word has been spoken. The rhythm has been installed. The field has been trained. There is nothing left to correct. There is nothing left to repeat. There is only one command: obey once, walk forever. This is the divine posture. To speak law once, to seal it rhythmically, and to walk as if nothing can revoke it, because nothing can. You are no longer a seeker. You are no longer a beggar. You are no longer in training. You are no longer waiting. You are no longer planting. You are the harvest now. You are the rhythm. You are the law in form. You are the spoken word wrapped in flesh and fire. And from this point forward, you do not revisit what has already been decreed. You live it. This is where most people fail. They hear the law, they agree with it, they try to obey, but they never leave the level of seeking. They remain spiritual students, always repeating, always adjusting, always checking. They never graduate to command, and because they stay in rehearsal, the field stays in preparation. Their life becomes an endless preparation for breakthrough that never arrives, because they refuse to walk as if the decree was final. But the law does not obey rehearsers. The law obeys rulers. You must stop repeating from doubt. You must stop checking from fear. You must stop revising your tone to match appearances. The spoken decree is not a seed that must be replanted daily. It is a law that must be lived. And once spoken, it governs. Not because you're good enough, but because law never fails. Florence said the game of life is a game of boomerangs. Man's thoughts, deeds, and words return to him sooner or later, with astounding accuracy. So what have you boomeranged? What have you decreed, rehearsed, sealed, and lived so deeply that it has no choice but to return in form? If your rhythm has been true, the harvest cannot delay. If your name has matched the decree, the gate cannot stay shut. If your seal has been undisturbed, the field cannot deny you. And if your walk now reflects your spoken authority, you do not need to check for results. You are the result. You do not redig a well that already flows. You do not shout into a field that already knows your voice. You do not knock on a door that was opened by your first command. You walk. That is all. The spiritually mature do not beg the law. They do not whisper between decrees. They do not peek over the wall of doubt, wondering if their word still holds. They do not perform for the field. They govern. They move in silence. They do not explain. They do not soften their tone to comfort others. They speak, they seal, they walk, and never look back. That is now your posture. Your decree is not up for debate. Your rhythm is not subject to others' opinions. Your obedience is not seasonal. Your name is not unstable. Your wealth is not potential. It is law. You said it. You sealed it. Now you walk in it until the mountain moves, until the gate opens, until the world bends to meet the frequency you established. Not because you are perfect, but because you finally stopped interrupting the rhythm with contradiction. The work is done. The harvest is assigned. The angels are already dispatched. The field has your coordinates. The law has your voice print. Your supply has your seal. From here forward, the only thing left is alignment, not performance, not effort, not force, just alignment. So let me say this one final time, and let every cell of your body hear it. You are not a student of wealth. You are wealth. You are not waiting on divine permission. You are divine permission. You are not practicing power. You are power. You are not hoping for supply. You are the one who commands it. You are not almost ready. You are already authorized. There is no more training, no more testing, no more explaining. Walk. You speak once, you obey once, and you walk forever. Say this aloud. I am already sealed. I do not revisit. I do not repeat. I walk in law forever again. Slowly, as if you're closing the gate behind you. I am already sealed. I do not revisit. I do not repeat. I walk in law forever. Now write it in the comments 7 times. For finalization, for vibration, for no return. This is not the end of your journey. This is the end of delay. This is not the end of speaking. This is the end of panic. This is not the end of becoming. This is the end of contradiction. From now on, your life becomes the demonstration. Your presence becomes the vibration. Your wealth becomes the confirmation. And if anyone asks how it happened, you do not explain. You simply say, I spoke once, I sealed it, and I never looked back.